In today's video, I'm going to be answering some of your juiciest questions. I'm going to be sharing my upcoming cruise, and I'm going to be answering the question that I have never answered before, which is, what is the worst cruise that I have taken since I started Life Well Cruised? Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now in today's video, I am going to be sharing my upcoming cruise, and fun fact, I have 2 upcoming cruises. So I've never done this before. I'm going to be sharing, anyway, one of the cruises. I think there are some people that are going to be very excited that I'm going to be on this ship. And I think the other ship is pretty cool too. So I'm going to be sharing that. And of course, I am going to be answering some of your questions about cruising, about travel, personal, and business. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention that if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I genuinely do appreciate it. And please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. All right, starting off with a juicy one. If you knew gratuities weren't going to the crew, would you remove them? Now, firstly, I have done a video on this topic just recently, so I do suggest going and seeing that because I don't believe that that is the case. But how do I feel about gratuities? Well, I would not remove my gratuities. Now, everybody can do what they want, so please do not get mad at me if I'm doing something different than what you are. But genuinely, I worry that I'm going to penalize the crew in some way. I just know that they work really hard, that they're away from their families, that they're working day after day for months, and that they send that money back home. And I know it's still a better opportunity for many people than they might have at home. There's a reason, let's face it, that they're on cruise ships. But nevertheless, I just feel like if I'm able to do it, and I am, and keeping in mind that for me, this is a business at this point, that, you know, in my case, I am not removing gratuities. All right, on to another juicy or maybe even a little bit controversial question. When it comes to solo cruise prices and single passenger rates, why do I think that they are so high? And do I think that solo passengers are being penalized? Well, firstly, I think the reason that they are so high on most cruise lines, not all and not all the time, but the reason that you're paying for double occupancy is the cruise line only makes a certain amount of money out of the actual cruise fare. I mean, think about all that's included on a cruise, right? So they're relying on many passengers to come on board the ship, go to the casino, go to the spa, book excursions, get drink packages or get drinks, buy the Wi-Fi. And if you're 2 people in the cabin, well, there's more people spending money. And if you're only 1 person in the cabin, there's less people spending money. Now, there are some cruise lines that could be more advantageous in general for solo passengers, but I would always look, because sometimes it won't be the double occupancy rate or 200%. Sometimes it might be 125% or 150%, and that still might be good. But a cruise line that is really good for solo passengers is Norwegian Cruise Line, because they have many different types of cabins, at least on many of their ships, that are priced at a solo rate. And obviously, the earlier that you book, the better that's going to be. Another cruise line that I've heard is great for solo passengers is Virgin Voyages. And another one that I have noticed, and of course the pricing is higher for this cruise line, but still it seems like they, at least at the time that I looked at their prices, Explora Journeys does seem like they have a very advantageous single passenger rate. Cruise loyalty programs, what do I think, and are they worth it? Well, I think that there are 2 sides to this. If you're somebody who's cruising once a year, I don't think it's worth it to actually chase loyalty points. If you happen to really enjoy that cruise line and you want to stick with them, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing it for the idea that you're going to get these great loyalty points and it's going to be super advantageous, honestly, I think that that is just a bonus. Now, if you're cruising several times a year, if you're able to, if you have a job that's maybe remote or something like that, that can be a little bit different. But most of the time, those better loyalty rewards are really only there at the higher tiers. Now, there was a second part to this question, and that was, are people who are cruising several times a year, are they doing that because of loyalty points? And Does that make the cruise much cheaper? So in my opinion, no, it doesn't make the cruise cheaper in general. There is usually a little bit of a loyalty discount, but it is not significant. In my opinion, people that are cruising multiple times a year, in some cases, they are travel agents, so they're getting travel agent rates or other advantages. Other people are content creators, so of course this is a business expense or they're earning money through doing this. Other people are doing this because they have casino offers, which we will talk about a little bit later. And other people, I know it can sound a little bit funny, but other people aren't spending that much day to day in their regular lives, and they're deciding to prioritize travel and cruising. Now, I am curious your thoughts on that. If you're somebody who cruises often or wants to cruise often, please let me know how you are able to do so, and if you tend to maybe save a little bit at home so that you can spend a little bit more when you travel. Are Mexican Riviera cruises safe, or is Mexico safe to cruise to? Now, I did get several of these questions, and maybe because recently I did a Mexican Riviera cruise on Holland America, New Amsterdam, which, by the way, I do have a first impressions video if you're interested on my channel. And in about 3 or 4 weeks, I will have a full review video on my channel. Now, do I think that it's safe? I can tell you that I had a wonderful time on my cruise. I do think it's important to stay within the tourist areas, but I actually felt safe within that. And I don't think the cruise lines would be bringing you somewhere that, at least in those areas, are not safe. And thinking about that, you know, when we think about Haiti or Labadee, that Royal Caribbean has their private or exclusive destination there, they've actually stopped going there for, I think it's about 18 months or so now. So if there really is a lot of conflict that can affect cruisers, I do think that the cruise lines are not going to go there. But of course, this is not, you know, travel advice. I'm not the consulate, but this is just my own personal experience. I did not personally feel unsafe. All right, on to a very practical question. What happens if the price lowers on your cruise after the final payment? Now, I think that this is a really good question because I think a lot of people know, not everybody, but a lot of people know that if the price of your cruise lowers before your final payment, you can call your travel agent or the cruise line, and they will usually honor that lower fare. Obviously, watch out for the terms and conditions. But what happens if it is after that point? Well, I'll tell you what I would do. The cruise lines do not have to lower that price. But what I would do is I would take a look at what would the upgrade cost me. Is the upgrade maybe less expensive or just a little bit more expensive than the cruise that I'm on now? Because that's an option. You can ask your travel agent or the cruise line if they can upgrade you. And in some cases, you might pay the difference, but in some cases, you never know. You might not. The other thing that you can do is you can ask, is it possible to have something in terms of goodwill as an onboard credit? Now, nobody is obliged, but I always think there's nothing wrong with asking the question. What are some tips for solo cruisers, especially when it comes to safety and cruise ports? Well, I think that cruising is a great way for people to travel on their own. I think it's probably one of the most convenient, one of the safest. So I think that it's a great idea. When it comes to cruise ports, I just think that it's a good idea to book an excursion. Now, you can book an excursion with a cruise line. You could book it with an independent, reputable third-party excursion. Personally, my recommendation is to go with Shore Excursions Group. I'll leave a link to them down below in the description of the video in case that can be helpful. But I do think there's always safety in groups. So for instance, just having a buddy. And if you don't want to book an excursion, if you meet somebody on the cruise, then go with them. And always let your friends and family know where you are. All right, now soon I am going to answer the question about which cruise maybe it wasn't terrible, but it probably was one I liked least out of the cruises that we've done in the last 4 or 5 years. But first, MSC and MSC Yacht Club. What did I really think? I loved MSC Yacht Club. Now, we did MSC Yacht Club on MSC Seascape. And I will tell you that first I did MSC in a regular balcony cabin on Seascape. I really do like the ship. Now, it definitely has more of a party vibe in the main part of the cruise, if you will. And one thing I realized when you do Yacht Club is that it's so much more tranquil. So I think it is hard to do Yacht Club and then go back. But I think if you do the opposite, you're okay. So what do I think of Yacht Club? I really had a wonderful time. I have an entire video on it. I think actually 2 videos. So I think those are definitely worth watching so that you can know what's included. Now, there are different cabins with MSC Yacht Club. So what do I think of the interior cabin? That was one of the questions. I would 100% do it. As much as I like to have a balcony, you've got this exclusive space with a gorgeous pool. So, you know, if you don't think you're going to spend a lot of time in your cabin, I think it's money well spent to just get into the yacht club. All right, let's talk about hotels for a minute and parking. When I cruise out of Florida, and in particular Fort Lauderdale and Miami, where do I park? To be honest, I park at the cruise port. Now, if I was leaving from Port Canaveral, I probably would use GoPort. I think that they're a very good service, but to my knowledge, I don't know any others in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. And at this point, we just find it's convenient to be at the port. So that's why we park there. If anybody has any recommendations of hotels that include parking, please leave them down in the comments because I know that that will be helpful to others. Now, I was asked for a hotel recommendation in Seattle. So what is my hotel recommendation? We stayed at Sheraton Grand Seattle. I thought that was a great location. Just maybe like 5 blocks from Pike's Public Market, I think it's called. Really a very good walkable location, and I really enjoyed that hotel. What advice do I have for people that are doing their first Mediterranean or cruises out of Europe, especially if they're used to cruises leaving out of the United States or Caribbean cruises? Well, the first thing I would say is, honestly, it's totally fine. Europeans, you know, they're very happy that tourists are there on the most part. And even though we might see different things on the news, it's like everything. You see a lot on the news, but in reality, when you're in a place, honestly, these are really very small examples that happen occasionally. But in my experience, I've never seen anything that has been a problem. What I would say is, don't use the American dollar or think that you could use the American dollar when you're in Europe. So make sure that you do have some euros with you. The other thing is, in the big cities, pickpocketing is a real issue. It's not something scary, but it's just something to be prepared for. So just make sure that you are vigilant. And I know that this is a little bit of a funny thing, but be prepared for walking, because in almost every city, of course, there are other ways to see the cities, but honestly, Europeans walk everywhere a lot. And, you know, this is just something you're probably going to do more steps on a Mediterranean cruise than you have ever done in your life. Am I a travel agent? So no, I'm not a travel agent, but I did work in the past as a travel agent part-time. I actually did it for years. For a local travel agency that specialized in cruises. I absolutely loved it, but something that I recognize about travel agents is they work really hard. You might be surprised. They research a lot. There's a lot of paperwork, and it's quite time consuming. So for me, being a content creator and, you know, running all of this, I make 3 videos a week. We have the website that we run as well, the social media. I wouldn't be able to do it all. So I prefer to use a travel agent than to be a travel agent. So I actually do have a recommendation for a travel agency. People ask me all the time, and there have actually been hundreds of people within the LifeWell Cruise community that have booked their cruises with MEI Travel. Now, MEI Travel is our travel partner, and one of the things that I like best about MEI Travel is, despite the fact that they have over 100 travel advisors that are working with them, they're actually a family-run business, and I think that they've now just recently had their 20th anniversary. So it's absolutely amazing. But I always suggest that when you are working with a travel agency, that you want, you know, knowledgeable, you want reliable, you want trustworthy, you want agents that specialize in cruising, or in the case of if you're booking anything with Disney, they also specialize in Disney. So you really want to have that. And also, there are no fee agencies. So you will not pay more by booking with MEI Travel than if you book directly with a cruise line. And in fact, most of the time, not only do they have the same prices as the cruise line, but oftentimes they have additional promotions or better prices. Now, if you're somebody who prefers to book on a website, they've got a great website so you can book on your own if you like. But if you prefer to get a quote or have somebody contact you, there is a quotation form that you could fill out as well. Now, I'm going to leave that link down in the description of this video as well as a pinned comment. And by the way, you will always find that link in my emails as well as in my video description. All right, an important question. But I've never actually answered this one before. How often do we get sick on a cruise or after a cruise? Surprisingly, not very often. Now, it definitely does happen. In fact, I can think of a couple of times, and those were definitely annoying. I always bring cold medicine, cough medicine, zinc, just all the just in case stuff. I do have a bit of a theory. I think because we travel a lot that we've sort of built up a little bit of immunity. It used to be like this when I used to work in the daycare. I worked in early childhood for years. I used to kind of build up, I guess, a bit of an immunity to the children's colds. And you know the way it is when parents first put their kids in daycare or the kids go to kindergarten, the kids bring home a cold and the parents get everything. And it's just like a cycle for about a year. So I kind of feel that that is part of it. But I do think taking something preventative like zinc, or some people have said emergency, and there are some other products, I think that that can help as well. Now on the cruise, I am pretty careful. I wash my hands a lot. I disinfect my cabin. And funny enough, but I actually try to avoid the public washrooms. All right, so getting into the tough question. What was my least favorite cruise that I did since we started Life Well Cruised? And no shade against this cruise line or cruise ship, but it was Carnival Venezia. We did a 4-day Bermuda cruise. And at the time, it's not that it was that bad, because I actually thought that the cruise ship was quite pretty. The food was better than I expected. And I should mention that with Carnival, I have actually taken a Carnival Celebration. Loved that ship. I think it's fabulous. Obviously, it's a family-orientated cruise line, so keeping that in mind, and it's fun and it's a little bit loud, but I actually thought it was quite good. And we did Carnival Vista as well. But it was that the Venezia was a 4-day cruise to Bermuda. And as much as I love Bermuda, we were only there, I think it was from 9 till 3, or maybe it was 9 to 4, and we had to get back to the ship, by 3:30. It was such a short day, and that was our only stop. And I think that that was a big part of why I didn't love it. Out of 4 days, we kind of had 2.5 sea days. And that ship I did find was crowded because Venezia is an older Costa ship, and the middle pool or the main pool, it just is not very spacious when, it comes to like the chairs and stuff like that. So I actually did feel that I felt the crowds more on that Carnival ship than I have on any other one before or since. All right, moving on and changing the subject. Where did I get my pants? Yes, it's going to sound funny. Or if you're British, I guess they would be slacks and not pants. But I did share a photo where I'm wearing this top and I'm wearing some pants. Where did I get them? I actually got them at a store called RW and Co. And that is a Canadian store. I think that it is by the same brand as Reitman. And sometimes I buy some clothes there. And just to let you know, the bottom of the cream colored pants or jeans, they're a little bit frayed. A couple of people said, they should have been hemmed better, but it's actually the style. I wasn't sure if I liked it or not, but in the end, I did think that it was nice. And yes, sometimes I do wear pants on a cruise. Now, when it comes to dresses, I do get many on Amazon, not all of them. So I am going to link also down in the description, I'll link a blog post with all of my Amazon cruise dresses and outfits, just in case you want to check them out. Now, I thought this question was a little bit funny because I actually heard it from a few people, but I'll tell you why. So how do you stay slim and healthy on a cruise when you cruise a lot? So first of all, I don't really feel like I stay very slim cruising a lot. It's definitely something that I find a little bit challenging, but I love cruise food and, I try to be a little bit careful, but honestly, it is a bit challenging. The reason I thought it was a little bit funny is because some people said, oh, you look slimmer in the pants. So I thought I can't really look that slim. But you know what? It's okay. We are who we are. And honestly, I think it's all about enjoying life and feeling good. And personally, I genuinely think that everybody looks good on a cruise. All right, moving on to some business and personal questions. Do I make money exclusively from YouTube AdSense and Amazon for my business? So no, I actually do have several income streams. And by the way, that is one part of being a content creator that I think a lot of people don't consider, is the fact that it really is a business. And when I first started this, I definitely didn't know that I could make money at it. But then you learn that it's an online business and there are different income streams. So there's my ad income that I make from the blog or the website, and it works similarly to YouTube AdSense. Of course, there's YouTube AdSense that we make. There's our Amazon affiliate program. There are other affiliate programs, like for instance, the luggage that I use. I genuinely love it. It's level 8, but I do make a small commission on that. And I will leave a discount code and, the luggage down below as well. I know a lot of people love it. And there are other affiliate programs and brand partnerships that I partake in as well. Do you or your son or any staff reply to the comments on Facebook, on social media, on YouTube? So actually, the majority of the comments are answered by me. And my son Ethan answers some of them, usually on Facebook, because he helps with posting and he also writes for the website. So I answer as many as I can. I probably am answering comments about 2.5 or more hours a day. So I answer as many as I can. And sometimes, comments pop up even from past videos, and it just happens to pop up. And I try to answer them because I'm genuinely so grateful that people take the time to comment and to answer questions. So I wish I could answer all of them, but if you keep commenting, I promise I will definitely get to you. What do I think the biggest factor has been in my YouTube and cruise blogger success, and what advice do I have to other creators? This question comes up a lot, and it came up again, and I will say, one of the people who asked this question, they've got a channel that's a family channel, family travel channel, and I think that is absolutely amazing. So the first thing I think is that I chose a niche. I didn't go super broad because, of course, travel could be very broad. So I only talk about cruising. It doesn't mean I don't like other things, although I really love cruising. So I try to make sure that everything I post about is related to cruising. So whether it's a port or it's advice of some sort or products, that it's related to cruising. So I do think for somebody who has a family channel, try to keep things kind of niche to that. And I think answering questions in some way is probably the best way to grow. Something that I never tried to do, and even now, is, I'm not trying to be like an influencer. And no shade, by the way, against that word, because, maybe it's not the best term for what people do, but people do work really hard. And I think that a lot of people genuinely help people and share great information. But I wasn't trying to be an influencer. I was really trying to share information as genuinely as I could. And the same kind of things that I would share or talk about with like my friends or my family. And I do think that trying to stay as authentic to you personally, quirks and all, will get anybody further than trying to copy somebody else. Oh, and the other thing is, don't try to be in all places. In my case, I'm very present on YouTube. That's where I have a really, my biggest following. I also have a strong following on Facebook and on Instagram, but I'm not really on TikTok. And it doesn't mean that TikTok's not a great place to be, but I just recognize there's only so much bandwidth I have personally. I'm not saying that it's not possible to even do more. Maybe one day I will. But I think you want to try to, be in 1 or 2 places first before you broaden out to others, because that's going to be your best chance to at least build a solid audience in one place. I hope that's helpful, but please do let me know. Anybody, if you have any other questions about this, I can always make a future video. What is something that people might be surprised to know about me? Well, I think a lot of people might be surprised to know that I was very shy when I was a child. So I was probably shy up until I was about 11 or 12, probably even after. But certainly I became less shy when I joined when I was probably about 14. I joined like a youth organization. And I think that that was really, really good. I think joining clubs when you're a child or a teenager is super helpful. And I guess I just became less shy over time. One thing I will say about my family is they are big talkers. So we were always encouraged in our house to speak and to discuss things. So I think that that was something really good. But outside of my house, I was genuinely very insecure. I really did worry about what people thought of me. So I'm actually surprised in some ways that I actually am out on the internet this way, but that's the truth of it. And I guess over time, I think that you maybe gain a little bit of confidence. I think I'm actually more confident now at over 50 than I was at 30. I don't know if any of you feel the same way, but let me know your experience down in the comments below. Now I have one more question and then on to the cruise reveal. So the next question is, are you going to be sailing on the Star Princess? Well, without further ado, I actually have two cruises, but the first one is going to be Princess Cruises Star Princess. So we're actually on like a preview sailing or a media sailing. We are going to be there for the naming ceremony. I do not know what's going to happen at the naming ceremony, so I'll share it with you in stories and stuff. So follow me on social media. And of course, I'll share in the community here too. And I'll share with you my first impressions of Star Princess. So let me know any of your questions below. I am super excited because I love Princess. Probably they're the cruise line I've sailed the most with. And we are actually going to be on that same cruise ship in a few months later, but I'm actually going to be taking my family. So both my boys, their girlfriends, we're going to be doing that as a family cruise. So I'm super excited to get that little preview. But the next one we're going to be doing, and it's almost right after, it's like 5 days later. This one might surprise people. You've been asking me for it. Disney Destiny. So we're actually going to be on another preview sailing, and that came as a little bit of a surprise. They reached out. It was an invitation to come, and I've never, been in touch with Disney at all before. So I'm super grateful that they've invited us for the preview cruise. Do not know what to expect. So let me know your Disney tips and let me know what you want to see as well. I'm super excited for that because either way, we actually wanted to try Disney. So I am really excited. In any case, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have other questions, let me know down in the comments below. We'll definitely do another video like this and let me know everything that you want to see. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now and happy cruising.